All right, let's paint. I've got supplies that I've gotten mostly from a recent TEMU order that I want to test out, and then something from Amazon. So what I have here are some watercolor paints that I bought on Amazon that I haven't yet opened. We're going to unbox them and test them out. They seem a little generic. They're 48 watercolors. Doodle Hog says the brand. Never heard of them before. Premium artist half pans. I picked them out because, at the very least, with the price and all, the metal tin that they're in, which this box is heavy, will be useful. So it had a nice tin, and then hopefully the watercolors are worth it as well. That's what they're selling, are the watercolors, not the tin. But I look at, like, what if the watercolors are not great? What else am I getting? So a reusable tin with half pans can always be helpful. Got Academy watercolor paper that I bought on TEMU. Varying prices because they had it on a cheaper price than I could find it on Amazon. I've heard many great things about this paper. It is 100% cotton, and it's cold press. And I've seen lots of reviews on YouTube by other artists that do lots of watercolors looking for inexpensive cotton paper. And this one has been highly rated many times. So, and TEMU had it cheaper, so I bought it. I bought 3 pads of it originally at this size, plus 2 smaller ones that were like 5 by 7. This is 10 by 7 inches, and so I have some that are 5 by 7 inches that are smaller. And then recently I had left this in my shopping cart on TEMU and hadn't bought anything in a while, and they gave me an offer for another one at this size, the 10 by 7, for like $2. So I checked out and bought more stuff. But this one's from my original order, and I also, on that order, bought some paint brushes that are the Meeden brand, that cattail pointed oval washes. They're a little larger than I was hoping for, but they didn't cost very much. So I'm going to test those out. I also got some Chinese, Japanese style paintbrushes, and I've never used them before, so and these brushes are bigger than what I'm used to, so we'll see. This might be a messy job that kind of isn't like the best looking video, but I'm experimenting. And if you've watched any of my videos before, I'm not a professional watercolor artist. I'm a beginner, maybe edging towards intermediate, but I wouldn't quite say that beginner. I kind of more know about watercolors than my ability to actually paint any scenic full scenes with them. I also bought this on TEMU in the first order, which is for holding the water to rinse your brushes. It has little places to stick your brushes so you could dry them upside down. These brushes are way too big for this, but my other brushes, like I've got some other ones over here that are more at this size, and those ones you could dry them upside down, which is ideal for your brushes. But it comes apart. It's a piece of silicone with a rigid center cylinder, so I'm hoping it holds water. If it doesn't, I will let you know. Put this video on pause and rush it out of here. I have paper towels on hand, and we'll go back to my favorite mason jar, spaghetti can jar, which is usually what I'm using, but we're going to test that out. But like I said, those are not going to work with my oversized brushes. And then I just have a Sharpie Rollerball permanent pen here. At least I think this one's permanent, that I just grabbed because I'll might doodle on it. To doodle, I'll have to wait for things to dry, but so there may be a pause at some point in the video while I wait for the paper to fully dry, and then we'll resume it so I can doodle on top of it. But the first part will be checking out the combination of these paints and this paper and seeing what I think of them, plus my maybe oversized brushes. So I've got the cellophane off. I probably have edited that sound out because that sounded loud and the microphone probably picked it up, so there was probably a little pause in there while I edited that piece out. But we can resume opening these up now. Oh, there are also more cellophane, so I may have to edit the next part out, depending on how noisy it is. But well, this was open on one end, so that probably wasn't too bad. So it's a metal case that it's in. And inside we have, just going to set that to the side here. We've got a little color wheel chart, a list of the colors that they have in here, which they all have very curious names, 48 shades with all sorts of not traditional names like vibrant yellow, goldenrod, apricot. I don't know if the camera can pick it up very well without a glare from the overhead light. But yeah, so lots of color names that are not traditional, which could be good because I already got like every single paint in the traditional one. So they get a whole instruction thing on here. So this actually is kind of nice if you've never done watercolor before. It does get you started. There must be a water brush pen in here because they're telling you how to take care of it. So some different techniques in it and some things about your color wheel, including getting into tertiary colors. And yeah, so that's cool. And then they give you a piece of, feels like wood pulp, but it's a swatch card. So I won't bore you with painting a swatch card, but I will do this later. If you really want to watch me paint swatches, let me know. I may turn the camera on and just record it and only post that part if people actually want to watch me paint a swatch card. I think you'd rather see me paint on a pad of paper, you know, and do something more exciting than paint little squares. But, you know, if you want, I'll double back and post that. So in here we have the tin, so it opens up with two sides on it. So you have different mixing areas. These are better for mixing, but you could mix over here. I think they intended that so you could do things there. And then they've got these. There's a little like a powdery stuff on them, but little particles of almost like dust or something. But yeah, so they're little half pans. And I can't pop them out at that angle, but in a brush pen. So I have so many brush pens. It seems like all these kits want to come with brush pens. So I guess they're like in vogue. So I'm going to use regular brushes, but I have yet another brush pen. I guess they get it so if you've never done watercolor before, you can just jump in and get started. But yeah, the tin actually seems pretty good. I mean, I'm sure there are better metal tins out there, but I didn't pay much for this set. I should go look up the price of it. It was under $20. So you can't complain too much. You're buying paints anyway. So we're going to see how these are, but these will pop out. I could put them in different orders if I want. I won't change them around right now, but and as you use up colors, I'm sure it'll be challenging to replace the colors that they've got in here because they're kind of unusual, atypical ones, and I don't believe they're selling individual pans, at least at this point. So, but you could always fill it with something else from a tube and use it that way. So, but I'm going to just close this for a moment while we get the watercolor paper open next. And we'll set some of these other things off to the side. Plus I gotta open up the brushes as well. Now, I don't know if this will make a big noise, but let me go off screen for a minute and I'll get it open. Okay, so I've got the pad open now, and it tells you to open it when you're open. I don't know. Is it bound? Oh, it's glue bound on all sides. That would be why. So this is the open side. That's what I didn't realize it was glue bound on all sides till I saw that. So in TEMU shipping, I got a little dent on the corner. I could have returned it, but their return policy is, I don't know, bothersome to me. Like, I got this real cheap, and in order to return it, I just have to return it and wait apparently a very long time for a credit, and I don't get a replacement. So I decided I'm gonna keep it. It's a small crack, and I could probably fix it as I get down there. I didn't realize it was glue bound, so that's gonna complicate it a bit more. But anyways, so I'm not gonna return it. I was thinking about it. But their return policy is not quite like Amazon, where if you return something, they ask you if you want a replacement sent. TEMU doesn't seem to do that, at least not when I tried initiating the return. So I've also gone ahead and taken these brushes out of their packaging while I was at it, so they're out of that now, and they've got sizing in them, so I have to get that rinsed off. So I'm gonna set this off to the side. I'm gonna set the box off to the side. So I will keep this handy just in case I need to reference it, but it's gonna be off screen. You'll see like a corner of it over there. And then we're gonna try adding water to this thing, and I'll keep an eye on it, make sure it doesn't leak. I'll put this pen over here, and let's see what happens when you add water to my new rinsing thing, which I'm going to use for travel, ideally. I don't think I'll fill this up too full, just in case. I don't see anything happening yet. Looks good so far. Once I'm sure it won't leak, I'll fill it further, because it probably would be easier to rinse if the thing was full. So I'm going to get these brushes going here. Get the sizing off them. It has a nice texture on the bottom of the rinse cup, so that does kind of help compared to using a canning jar, which is usually what I do, because it can help loosen up stuff off the bristles. And these little flaps here can be helpful for getting your brush rinsed off. So that one's all set. I'll set that over here, and I'll do one of each, and including the Chinese Japanese style brushes too. Get all the sizing off of everything. One thing I do know is that nobody bought them and returned them, or at least if they did, they never tried them, or they wouldn't have any sizing in them. So it should be that they're brand new brushes. So I'll probably get more use out of the little tiny one. I don't know what kind of material they were. I don't know if it said on here. If it said cat's tongue oval wash, sizes 4, 8, and 12. Made of horse and squirrel hair. Nickel-plated copper on the ferrule. And just a lacquered handle, probably wood. So yeah, so they're if you're not into having products made with animals fur, these aren't going to be for you. These didn't have a package. They were loose in a separate like plastic bag, so I really know nothing about these ones. So there's still sizing in it. They do feel like they're probably natural for hair. And I'll leave the little cap things off. So far it's not leaking. I'm sloshing things around. So far so good. My water is definitely changing color with all the sizing coming out. Just turning it kind of a milky color. Kind of a whitish, clear but whitish. Okay. All right, those are all mostly unsized now, but this is going to be challenging trying to get a little bit of water on it already, but it's going to be challenging to paint with such large brushes. So this is more all experimental, and I will put it this way. Not how I'd normally set things up, but I have to get things in the camera view for you. And so I don't really have a good spot for mixing stuff with this setup. So, but I guess we won't mix up colors together. And I do need to wet the thing down and on my desk somewhere. Give me a moment to remember where I put them. Okay, I'm back. I have found them. I have this little kind of little tiny sprayer bottle that I bought at a local craft store, and I thought it'd be great for spritzing these. The other thing that works really great is using a little dropper, like a medicine dropper thing, because then you can put it just on each individual pan, so you don't have to spray everything. But I'm gonna use this, and it hasn't been used yet, so it takes a bit to. But I bought this locally. I can see if I could find something like it on Amazon and give you a link if you think this is a great idea, because the other thing that will be good for it is instead of maybe the water pen, which I have a zillion of, it does fit right in here. So it could go there. So I'll see if I can find something on Amazon and give you a link to that. So, and then we'll see how quickly these things loosen up. Kind of soften, and we'll paint something with them. So let's try, since the brush is already wet, let's get some things wet here. So far my thing is not leaking, which is good. There are some hairs coming out of this, so I don't know how many hairs I'm going to be losing. But let's, we got a little bit of wet over here, and well, let's grab this like raspberry-like color and see what happens. I don't see them dispersing very far. I'm going to try a smaller brush. This one's also just a tad hard to work with. Good for covering the whole surface, but you don't necessarily need a cat's tongue for that. So let's try the next size down, and we'll see what happens when we mix it with another color. Let's try this kind of turquoisey color. Oh, I must have picked up the green, which looks kind of yellowy. It's almost more of a kind of a green yellow. So, and I'm just thinking of putting different colors down kind of randomly so I can let it dry, and then we'll doodle on top of it. Let's try putting maybe some of this green here. I'm going to go over onto the dry paper. The paper is definitely buckling quite a bit, even though it's glue bound. I tend to like using the 100% cotton by ArtBeek, which I have discovered they've gone through a few transitions with their ArtBeek paper. And I opened up the next pack. I found that the paper was a totally different quality, and I was disappointed. And I still need to reach out to them, but I did order one more pad immediately for my next monthly Amazon Prime auto ship, and found that they had gone back to the original paper that I had from my very first order when they first started selling the paper. So they have gone back to the better quality paper, so I was happy about that, but I do have to reach out to them and ask them about the other two pads that I had bought in the interim that are this not so great paper, and see how they respond to that. So let's try this color. I have to say a lot of these colors probably have some gouache in them, or white watercolor paint. Gouache really is what it is, because there are lots of pastels, and with the colors they look like they have to have some kind of gouache in them. So I call them watercolors, but I would say these might be a bit more like a gouache-like thing. So, but and I think if I were on my ArtBeek paper that I'm more familiar with, using a brush that I'm more familiar with, I could tell you if these are good or bad. Right now, I can't tell whether I'm not impressed because of the paper or because of the paint. I really have no idea. But I don't see things really flowing together the way I would expect. Usually I'm using paints by Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, and a couple other miscellaneous higher quality ones. So that's what I'm used to. I'm used to my ArtBeek paper, at least the original pad, but the original paper, and everything works great on those, and I'm not seeing the same effects here. What do I want to put over here? I'm really curious about these peachy colored ones. Oh, that's a pretty color. Yeah, maybe we'll do some of these darker greens down in the corner. I don't know if I picked up the other color next to it or whether that's actually got turquoise in it. I think I got the color next to it. Yeah, so they're not really blending with each other. They're kind of sitting on top of each other, which I would think even if the paper wasn't that great, that they would still blend together. This paper is very buckled. I'm gonna go with this one over here. That's a pretty color. They're pretty colors, but I'm not seeing things blending in together and mixing and that kind of thing. I think I'll take this one over here. Just want to put more. And I might add some actual yellow in this area just to brighten it. All right. All right. I'm gonna let this dry so I can doodle on top of it. The brushes are losing hairs. Hopefully it's just a few because they're new, and hopefully it won't continue on. We'll have to test out the Chinese ones, but I think what I'll do while this thing is drying is I'm gonna go on pause, but I'm gonna go get the ArtBeek paper the one where they've got the right paper back again. And I'm going to see what they look like on that. That way I can tell if, and maybe use my usual brushes, then I can tell if these paints are good or not. So it could be the paper, it could be the brushes. They're kind of unwieldy being so big. But it could be the paints, and I don't know which. I got to go back to eliminating too many variables here. So I will be back in a minute with different paper. And I will say this thing still is not leaking, so I'm glad about that. Looks like I can get up from my desk and not worry about having a flood in here when I return. So I will be back in a moment. All right, I'm back. Just only been gone a moment, so it's still wet. And I just want you to see how much, if it doesn't, well, if it drips, I guess it doesn't matter too much, but see how it's buckling up? You can see the ripples in it. That's a lot of rippling, if you ask me. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe people are accustomed to that, but that doesn't happen on my ArtBeek, and since it's also glue bound, I can't quite tell what the paper feels like till I lift it up, and I want to keep it on here and let it dry, because hopefully it'll flatten right back out again. But it's not doing a very good job remaining flat, and things weren't mixing, so I'm starting to think this might be the paper. But let's set that aside, let that continue drying, and I'm going to bring in my ArtBeek paper. Now I brought both of these. Now in my previous videos, you've seen these. I did a tour of my original art journal, which I don't have here, and then I was testing a new palette of paint, a different one than this obviously, and I painted these. So, but I was expecting when I was painting that, and I took the cellophane off it and everything during that video, and I was just assuming it would be the same paper that I was used to, but I noticed it just seemed different while I was painting it. I was a little puzzled, and especially when I got to painting this side, it was almost like I was on hot press paper. It had no texture, and the texture on this side, I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I think you can get it. It's got lines. And I thought, it doesn't seem like the same paper that I had in the first pad. So that was puzzling me. And it was making the paint work a little different. I went on, I don't know if I videotaped these that time or not, I can't remember. But I did a bunch more color swatches, which I'm going to scan and digitize them as clip art. And then I was painting flowers. So as you can see, I'm still learning and getting progress going here, but I've got a lot to learn about painting. So, and I was just doodling around with paints. I think I bought some new paint colors, tubes, individual tubes, and I was testing them out there, and then I was attempting to paint a little scene with pine trees. I was watching a video or something on that. I don't remember. It's been a little bit. But it was curious because the paper, I don't know if I can pick it up again. It depends on the angle. There, you can kind of see it there. Has the lines on one side, and it's very smooth on the other. Like I've got one that's sort of a hot press, kind of, and the other side's cold press and hot press. And I thought, well, that's just not how my original pad was. So I went and, can't put that there on top of that, that's wet. So put that down here. So I ordered another pad. So this was freshly ordered. I got this in May of 2023, and I knew as soon as I opened it, I was back to the paper that I was familiar with. It feels the same on both sides, and if I can get the camera to pick it up, yeah, maybe a little bit there, you can see there's no lines. It's got a kind of dispersed texture like you would expect cold pressed paper to be. It has a texture, but you know, kind of rough all around. No pattern to it, or no noticeable pattern. See if I can get another angle. It's hard to pick up white paper with a camera, so. But the paints are acting back to normal, and so if you've ever bought ArtBeek, I don't know when they did this switcheroo thing. I think it happened over the summer of 2022 and into the fall. I had to have to go back to look at the purchase dates because I was buying some thinking I was going to do lots of painting, and I had them on auto ship because you can put that in your subscribe and save on Amazon. And so I had gotten 2 pads, but I hadn't finished up my original one yet, so I wasn't aware of it right away. And I think I bought one in the summer and one in the fall, is what I'm guessing. And then this one was just bought in May when I wanted to see. But I'm glad that they went back. They must have had people reach out to them and say, hey, what happened to the paper? But I want to test on this paper with these paints. And I'll try this small cat's tongue brush here, which is kind of like a filbert. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if this is the paint or the paper. I'm gonna lay down some of the colors I just did. Now, sometimes with gouache, things just don't run together very well. I can already tell that the paint is much better on this paper. Much better. And I bet if I get something next to it, those colors I think are very similar. Actually look like the same color when you paint on them, even though they look different in the palette. So I would think this would have more of a raspberry color. But I'm getting much different results on this paper, which I'm glad for, because other than the fact that, on a lot of this Academy paper, and I'm getting, things are blending together. It's not the paint, it's the paper. I'm not exactly sure why so many people have given that paper excellent reviews. See if we can put some stems on these, turn them into some flowers of some kind. Yeah, probably not the best flowers, but one thing I have discovered is, and I'm going to go back and do this with my original ArtBeek paper, the one that I did my tour of that, watercolor journal, because I have a lot of like paint blobs like I've got over here. I've got a lot of those in that one, which I'm going to scan and do some clip art things with them. But I realized I could go back and use, we'll even do it with, well, I haven't scanned these ones yet, but we can go back and use a Sharpie and doodle on top of them and add another layer of interest to it and just kind of keep working it more and more. So, but I have clip art I want to use for digital projects in Affinity. So I want to scan them before I start doodling all over them, but then I'll scan them again after they're doodled. So, not sure what a rose leaf looks like. I'm going to assume that this is some kind of green. It's like an aqua-like green. I like mixing colors together, but usually I like mixing them like on the paper. It seems like a lot of people will mix them on their tray, which I have tilted up here, but I seem to do it like on the paper, which I think gives me a different result, but I probably find that it might be better if I mixed them in the tray. So let's see if we can, I could put a big splotch of water. This paper does so much better. I mean, it still buckles. I think even arches would buckle to a certain extent. But not, I'm still losing some hairs on these brushes, so I hope it doesn't continue. Otherwise they've got ferrule issues. Or they're not gluing them properly or something. But, yeah, let's try one of these Chinese brushes while we're at it. See what they do. But let's do a kind of like what we did on the other paper. I like this raspberry kind of color. These are for doing like Japanese style and Chinese style big leaves and lettering and stuff like that, which I'm going to have to watch some videos on and get a sense of how that goes. But see, these are bleeding together on this paper, but they don't want to bleed on the other paper. And I'll take this color. I'm going to take this lime green. This one's losing hairs. I think these are probably some shade of blue. Yep, that's like a Payne's gray blue. I'm running out of room on the camera. This pad's much bigger and I don't have a lot of room for the camera. Let's see if I can get more of the pad in there. Let's see what this one is. That's a pretty, that's like a cerulean blue. I'll try mixing maybe this green here on the side. But yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot more movement with these paints on this paper. And I'm very glad that they went back to their original paper. Now, I don't have a huge area going on here. But this paper is very thick. I don't know if you can see that. It's very thick. And, you know, it's 300 GSM, which is, or 140 pounds, which is the same as this one over here, which is still drying, but it's still got a ripple in it. So, I think I rinsed that brush off. But, it actually doesn't say. Oh yeah, it does. Over here, 300 GSM. I'm looking over here. So 300 GSM, 140 pound. So it should be the same quality as just about every other paper here, but this ArtBeek paper is definitely a lot thicker. And seriously, if you bought ArtBeek in the past and were disappointed with the paper, it may very well be that you had some of that, this paper here. You may have gotten a pad of this that has those lines. So if you look at yours, and you can see distinct vertical going from, down this way from the spiral bound down. And you've got distinct lines going in one direction that you can follow. And on the back side, it looks like hot press that's completely smooth. That means you've got the other paper. And I didn't like that so much. I think if that's what I had started with ArtBeek, I probably would not have become a fan. But I bought a pad of their paper when they first started selling it. Still annoyed at myself that I didn't get the 2-pack for 20 bucks. I did that just when they were launching it. But I bought it way back then, February of 2022. And that's why I've liked it so much. So they do say right on the cover, I'm still waiting for the other one to dry, so I'm kind of doodling, that if your product doesn't perform properly, please contact them. So I'm going to reach out to them. I haven't done it yet, and I'm going to see what they will do about my 2 pads. And actually, they have a glue-bound one. Somewhere I have the glue-bound one that I haven't tested. I don't know which paper that's got either, so I should go find that and then reach out to them. But that's what I would do if you have one of them. But what you want is this paper here that they've gone back to, that's the original. So, and this does warp this, but making it into a bowl shape. But this does re-dry flat, because I've done that a bunch of times getting things wet, and it pretty much goes back to being flat again. I haven't totally soaked an entire sheet that way, but I've gotten large areas wet, and they've resumed their shape afterwards. So yeah, so let's let these things dry. And I will have to watch some videos on how to really use these style brushes and do a demo on them. But they're losing a bunch of hairs, but I'm not too worried since I just opened them. It's if they continue to lose hairs, or I get clumps out of them, and that would be an issue, because then it would suggest that they're not crimped properly, or the glue isn't correct, or that there's something going on. But a few hairs in there, here and there, on new brushes should be okay. I don't tend to see it on synthetic brushes. Most of my brushes are Princeton brushes that are all synthetic. Actually, these might be my first ones that are not synthetic. But I don't tend to lose hairs on those, but it could be a nature of them being, hair, actual hair, not synthetic. So yeah, so I'm going to let things dry here, and then we're going to doodle in a moment. Okay, so I'll be right back. I'm just going to pause till things are dry. All right, I'm back to recording, but things haven't dried completely yet, but something's really bugging me here. So we already were just looking at the cover of this, where it says it's 300 GSM. And my ArtBeek paper is 300 GSM. My Arches paper is 300 GSM. I don't use it too often because it's so expensive, but I have it. I have lots of 300 GSM paper, but this is bothering me. So it's almost dry, but I kind of started pushing this a little further because it was so warped right here. And I don't know if you can see that. Does that look like 300 GSM to you? It doesn't look like 300 GSM to me. So I'm going to pop this thing off. It's not totally dry, but this is really bothering me. Unless they've got some special sheet on the very top, which doesn't make any sense. But this doesn't look like 300 GSM. There is no way in the world this is 300 GSM. It's impossible. Guess what's going back to TEMU? This is unbelievable. Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, hang on. That's not the same texture as this page. There's a protective sheet on the top. That's weird. Why would, I don't know. I've never had glue bound. Let me know if you've had glue bound before. I'm gonna pop another one off. This feels entirely different on the next page. Like, and then this feels way more like what I would expect. I'm gonna pop a second one off here. If I can get my, I'm using a letter opener, which is a little thicker than a standard knife. Yeah, okay, so there's some kind of, I don't think I'll take it off. This is an entirely different page. That is 300 GSM. Yeah, okay, so I gotta restart our experiment here. If you do order it, just know you have something else on the top. They must do that to keep this clean, although it's all sealed inside. I don't know, but all right, well, let's do it again. We should get different results now. I'll get it wet, big thing. Let's hope we don't keep losing hairs. Yeah, this is, yeah, entirely different. I was like, how can everybody do all these videos raving about it? And I'm like, God grief, I'm not that great of watercolor artist. I'm still a beginner, and I can see that's not great. But yeah, so I don't know. Just know that you might have a piece of extra paper on top that's not your watercolor paper. Let's try something with browns. We haven't done that yet. It's actually, it looks like a Indian red. Oh, that's totally, oh, look at that. See, much different. It's bleeding like it should. Well, I don't know if it really should bleed quite that far. The other one didn't bleed at all. This one's got like lines going everywhere. Can you see that? Yeah, that's dispersing. Like, my ArtBeek paper doesn't do it that way. It does disperse, but not like that. So, well, talk about night and day of a difference. Now we should get things bleeding together and having more fun with it. Let's try some of these browns over here. Get it wet over here. Might as well get it really wet. I think we'll have much better luck. That was just really weird. I didn't expect that. Every pad I've had has always, well, most of them have been either spiral bound or at least loose, not glued together. So maybe that's something that happens on glue bound ones. I don't know. Guess we won't return them to TEMU. I guess they're off the hook. It's just something that the paper does. For a minute I thought that they had sold me something that wasn't what it was supposed to be. I've heard that they definitely keep an eye to make sure that what's being sold actually matches their description, so that's what I've heard. So still not exactly sure if I like TEMU, but I do find myself ordering things from them, mostly craft things, because so far I've liked the quality of what I've gotten. I just don't like the experience of shopping on their app. It's you can watch my unboxing for my thoughts on that. I don't like the app. I don't like the constant pressure, so it seems, to go shop and buy things. I don't get that from Amazon. Amazon encourages me to buy things, but they're not doing things gamified and, you know, bombarding me with stuff. So, but that's in my other video. You can go watch the unboxing, and it's at the end. Yeah, I'm getting much better results now. This actually is pretty comparable to my ArtBeek paper now. Phew, because I have let's see, four of these, three of these, four of this size, two of the smaller ones, and I just ordered today a 9x12 pad as well. So I'd hate to find out that I had problems with all of them. So that's a relief. I love this peachy color. There's three that are sitting next to each other, and I'm not quite sure how they're different from each other. They look similar. I don't mind because it's a wonderful color, but they do look an awful lot alike. This one's a little bit pinker. I haven't done anything with these reds yet. I think I'll put some purple in here. That one looks very similar to the other one. This one kind of faded. I don't know which green it was. I'd have to go back and look at the video and see what I did. Let's move this up here. I think this. I'm still losing hairs on these. Let's see, we need some more blue in here. And we may have to pause again. Let's do some of these ones over here. Let's do this one. I think I'll put some purple. One's like a pinky purple, and the other one's like a grayer purple. What else do we have here? Try one of these oranges. Use the lighter yellow. Looks like I need more green. This one here. Finish that off there. All right, now get that covered. Still losing lots of hairs here. But yeah, the colors are, the paints are just like much better now. Much better on the right paper. So yeah, so I don't know. This is, looks like, who knows what this is. It's probably not cotton. It's probably just a piece of wood pulp. Like, it's thicker than a printer paper. It's almost like sketch paper. I think it's, maybe it's a piece of their sketchbook paper, which I'm sure they make. And they just put it over it to protect it, maybe, because it's glue bound. Maybe it's more likely to have a problem. I don't know. But that worked much better. But as you can see, I've got lots of hairs from the brushes. But once it dries, I'll get them off of there. And then we can doodle on it, because that'll be fun. That's what I want to do when I go back to my original ArtBeek pad, is to go in and doodle over things. And you know, I'll still use these, but I'll have to see what they'll do. I'm gonna reach out to them. But I'm gonna take a Sharpie and I'm gonna do like you know, doodle designs, kind of Zentangle style, and add some, you know, decorative things to them. Same with these. And so I'll record while I'm doing that. You can watch. I may not do much talking when I do that. These I might do too. I might add some Sharpie things to them. But first I'm going to scan them, because I'm going to use them as clip art for my digital stuff that I do. So once they're scanned, I will come back and go over them with the Sharpie. I don't have the other pad on hand, but there's already a video posted of the other one. So I'm going to pause and let this thing fully dry. Then we'll come back and we'll doodle on it. I'm going to clean up the art supplies, so when I come back, the desktop won't look totally different. We'll just be with the picture and with my Sharpie, and that's probably it. So I'll be back in a moment. All right, I'm back, and we're gonna doodle on this. It's dry now, and there is a thunderstorm rolling through, so I don't know if the recording will pick that up or not. It hasn't quite got here. If it gets too much, I'll have to pause again. But we'll get started on this. So in the meantime, while I was waiting for things to dry, I did look up on Amazon how much I paid for these. Bought them at the beginning of May, and I paid $19.99 for them, so 20 bucks. So once I got past that whatever that piece of paper was, it felt like sketch paper that they had put as a top layer on here, things went a whole lot better. And now the paper seems good. It didn't buckle hardly at all, because it's glue bound on all sides. I did, you know, crease it here because I wanted to see what was going on, and I showed you guys that. So this feels very similar to, I'll know better when I can take it all the way off. Feels very similar to the ArtBeek. It actually feels also similar to Arches, which is nice. So now I do understand why it's got high reviews, but clearly this was a little off. So, you know, if you've been trying to do watercolor on paper that is not meant for watercolors and you're wondering why things aren't working, well, that was a good example of that. So I tend to work on a lot of different papers, and this didn't even seem to work at all. So I like Canson as well, but this stuff's cheaper than Canson, and this is cotton. It's better than Canson. So I'm not a big fan of Strathmore. If I'm going to go Strathmore, it's got to be the 400 and not the 300. That's got sizing issues on the 300. But I tend to steer away from it, although I'll use it at times for just doodle painting and stuff. So, but I think on the market there's a lot more 100% cotton papers coming out, and you have more options. You don't have to spend all your money on arches until you feel ready to do something with that. It's definitely a nice experience using it, though. I have done it for a couple of projects where I was going to give the pictures away. But for my own stuff, I tend to use various different papers. I like to experiment. I love doing these kinds of like, what happens when I try things? So I will let you know, this thing, I'm pretty happy with it. Did not leak at all. Was pretty easy to rinse out, and I can take the bottom and the top off, and they're a little wet at the moment, but I can take this off and I can fold it up. Actually, if I put this in with that, I think they sell these on Amazon as well, but I got this off TEMU. I think they sell it in both places. I think I paid $8 for this thing, and you just stick it in here. So this is rigid, so if it gets pressed too hard, I'm sure it'll snap. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily more compact than my mason jar, but that's how that goes. So I'll put that off to the side. The brushes, I did clean them over at the sink with a little bit of soap and water and rinse them up good. They do still seem to be losing hairs, but we'll see how that goes. So, and they're going to dry on their sides. Well, I'll put them in a different spot so we can clear up the desktop. So we've got these. And yeah, let me know if you want me to post the video of me filling out the swatch card, which I'm not sure where I set that, but I think actually it's, oh, it's right here. Because I'll record it, but may or may not post it. But I can post it if you guys would like to see that. Then that way we'd actually see each of the every color, all 48 of them on a piece of paper. Oh, and I got water on the corner. Yeah, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do some Sharpie work, although I'll have to watch out for the corner because I get a little wet again. And I'm just gonna, I've got a couple of things I can use for making some shapes, like a roll of tape. I can go around it. I've also got this that I bought at Michael's Crafts that's got all sorts of curves and things, so I can play around with that. And pretty much anything you have around, or just freehand it. You don't have to actually trace anything. But I'm just gonna throw a few circles on here. And this is a Sharpie roller, which I'm not sure if it is waterproof or not, but it has a roller ball rather than a felt tip. And yes, it is Sharpie brand. Whoops. I have to add that into my design. Going all over the place. But I find the felt tips start to fail after they've been on watercolor paper. I don't know what it does to the felt tip, but it kind of makes a mess. So I'm just going to randomly put a few shapes down, and then I'm going to kind of do things freehand after that. So we'll just, I'm not really got this all planned out, but sometimes that can be good. Maybe I'll take this shape here. Now they get things started, but mostly freehand it. Not really sure what I'm going to do with this, so this has got a thing going out, so maybe I'll go like that and do the same over here. And this thing had a thing where when I was tracing it, it kind of got away from me. And I don't know what I'll do with these. I may take and put circles around them. And I don't know how this will come out. It may come out looking really super cool. It may look ridiculous. I don't know. It's more about the process. The other thing I did before with the other one was looked for patterns. Sometimes where the paints bleed together, I don't like to mess with them because like these two bled nice together. But some of them make nice hard lines, so you can kind of maybe put a line in along some of them. But then there may be places where you really don't want to mess with it. And sometimes the pen wants to go where you didn't really intend, so you end up with double lines. So you can maybe leave it alone and just kind of let it be double lines, or you can color it in. And it takes quite a while to do this. And it's kind of hard to talk while I'm doing it, so I may just have times where I'm very quiet. And I will probably jump around. There's a lot of people that do doodling videos, so I'm watching a few of them, different ways of doing it. You can doodle first and then put the paint down. Or you can do it like this, where you paint first and then you doodle on it. You can doodle so it actually matches the paint patterns, kind of like I started to do over here, is following the paint line. Or you can just disregard the background and just doodle randomly. And depending on your level of drawing skills, which are mine are kind of okay, they're not great, you will end up with different things. If you're an excellent drawer, you could draw all sorts of cool things all over it. If you don't feel like you can draw at all, then you might choose to do more geometric things, tracing shapes and doing more linear things. And as you draw more and more and watch other people draw things, you'll get better skills. You'll see people do things and be like, oh, I might be able to do that, and you'll give it a try. It won't look as good as theirs, but it will improve your own skills and you'll develop your own style. filling this one all with lines, and I'm having a little trouble getting the pen to go where I want it to go. So I'm getting kind of jagged lines through there. Might fill the other one all with circles, since this one's got all lines. So I might go with circles. Fill it in completely with circles. And who knows, the next time I paint out something like this, it probably will be a totally different thing. I'm just experimenting with different styles. I'll probably use different pens. I've got somewhere, I don't think I have them at my desk here, I have metallic pens, ones that do gold and silver. And those are fun. There's white gel pens. Those I think I have nearby. With the watercolor, I don't really like to use colored pens, but metallics and black and white, I think, complement the watercolors. And if you don't want to watch this in its entirety, there are controls on the Zoom video screen where you can speed me up if I'm going too fast, which I probably am not. You can slow me down too. But just know that if you want to watch this faster but not miss anything, you can use the controls to do that. So thinking I'm going to turn this into the center of a flower. You can also draw like mandalas on it. I didn't think to do that with this one, but now I'm thinking that would have been a nice thing to have done. two ones in between here. I think I finished putting circles in here. And I noticed I bled over a bit, so I'm going to use that as inspiration to do something else here. That doesn't really look like it's working out, so I may try something else. Let me do it this way. Let's see, this one. So I'll go with this one. They're not evenly spaced, but so I have to pick one or the other. So I'll go with this one. Oh, I may add some more of these circles. Just, I find that if I don't know what I want to do, adding some structure lines from another object can be helpful. Right. That. Sometimes it's hard to think of what to do next with it. Let's see if I can do something with this. do seem to like these things. Something about drawing in a spiral. And then putting the little dots. They remind me of fiddleheads. And the ferns are unfurling. Do something with this shape. another circle here. an incoming cat. Amira, you're going to join the party here. Hi. Are you going to come see what's going on here? Walk right on through. Yep. Yeah. Keep going. All right. We're going to have to hit pause here. All right. Interruption from my cat. I didn't think you wanted the whole view obscured by her body, so I put it on pause. But we're back. But I'm probably not going to be able to do this too much longer. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But I think I need to put some silver and gold and white. So I'm going to pull those out in a moment. Just need something here. Going to switch over to having the white gel pen. These are just Uniball Signos, and not quite sure where I want to put this. I find with these Signo pens, your paper must be 100% dry. And they don't seem to like to write over themselves, so once I've got it on there, if I go back over it, it sometimes just doesn't want to stick to where it had been. But definitely your paper must be bone dry. This might be nice to add some things here where the black would have got lost. Okay. Might be interesting to add, if they'll show up too low. Certainly white on yellow doesn't work quite so well. Oh, cat incoming again. You may have to pause once again. There's a pause in here. It's because my cat got in the way. And I'll have to go back and edit it out. I think on these leaves I'm going to make them black. Just fill them in. All right, well, let's see if I have gold and silver. I'm gonna have to look for these, so I'm gonna pause and look for them, and I'll be back. All right, I'm back with assorted pens. I found some of I've got various different ones, but these are Bic Intensities that are felt tip, silver and gold, and I'm going to add that to it. But I also, before I realized where I had these, I was thinking, well, I could use my Speedball block printing ink, which is water soluble, which I use to put gold on top of it. It works great as just watercolor because it's water soluble. But I would have to get things wet if I used this, and I wasn't sure if this Sharpie roller pen that I've been using was waterproof or not. It doesn't say on it, and often they don't. So I tested it, and it does bleed. So this may or may not be a problem, just depends on whether I get the Sharpie wet. And it doesn't bleed tremendously, but it does cause it to bleed. So this is not completely waterproof. So keep that in mind, but it writes nice. It's been doing fine. This stuff's great. You can use anything that's water soluble, like you're using watercolor, so mixed media. But then I was trying to find the pen that I do know is definitely waterproof, and I can't figure out where it is right now. But that's the Uniball Vision, which is also a rollerball, and I think it comes in a waterproof version and one that's not, so you just have to make sure you get the right one, but it's called the Uniball Vision. But in my collection, I did have a Uniball Signo, which is very similar to the white gel pen. And I haven't tested it yet, so we're going to do that right now. This might be a gel pen. I'm not sure. This one's a gel pen, so I'm thinking the Signos are gel pens. And gel pens don't tend to work very well when you add water. And then I've got, this is a Pilot Precise V5 Extra Fine. And I think this one's waterproof, but again, I'm not sure. So I don't know. But I am eventually going to just use these, so it won't matter. But I was just kind of wondering. So I have just a cheap brush here, Artist Loft brush that I just keep on hand. Nothing fancy. Just to get it wet. So this one bleeds, so that's the Signo, Uniball Signo, which I thought might be a gel pen. And so that will bleed. So that bleeds worse than the Sharpie roller. But I think that might be a gel pen. That might be why. And let's see what the Honda, and that one's not also. Actually, it looks like the Sharpie roller did the best out of them all. So you definitely have to watch when you're buying your pens to make sure they say that they actually are waterproof. We often think of Sharpie as being waterproof because it usually is. You know, when we get these ones here, it says permanent marker, so does the fine point ones, but that's not what these are, so they're not, it's not the same ink inside. But it looks like it did better than the other two, so what I would need to do is do this with the Uniball Vision, which I don't have on my desk, so, but that's all right. I'm doing this, we just don't want to get that wet, or it'll be all over the place. So treat it like watercolor. But we'll, this may or may not have caused a problem because you're just putting it on with the brush a little bit at a time, but it will get things damp again. So I will put that aside. I'll put links to these things down below on Amazon in case you're wondering, in case they interest you. I'll give you links to it, but I'm gonna add some, this here is gold. I'm just gonna add some gold and silver in places. And this will probably look more gold at an angle when the light hits it, so. And I may have to hit some pause here because we've got sounds around the house. A cat meowing. Right, let's see. I guess one other thing I could do is put a little more watercolor on it on top in certain areas, but it'll bleed the pen. The reason to make sure you have waterproof pens. Well, I'm not really sure what else to do to it at this point, so I think I'm going to end there. There may be more things that'll occur to me later on, but I'm going to stop there. So before I end the video, let me just pop this thing off of the pad so we can really look at the paper a little bit more. Once I get past that, whatever that paper was on the top, things were tremendously better, and actually I really like the paper a lot. Now I'm pretty glad that I did get it once I realized I was not painting on it, but yeah, it has a very nice texture to it, and it is thick. It's not as thick as my ArtBeek, So my ArtBeek is like this thick, and this is feels a little thinner, but it actually feels slightly more like Arches does. Not exactly the same, but much closer than the ArtBeek. And so and once it dried, it came back being very flat. I don't know how soaked I had it. I know I had the other sheet very soaked, but I don't know if the camera picks up the metallics very well. They might just kind of look flat. But yeah, so there's one doodle. And if you like this video, well, of course, give it a thumbs up, but also let me know in the comments that you liked it. Let me know if you watched the whole thing at regular speed or you sped it up to the end. You can always speed things up and watch it to the end. But if people really like the regular long version, then I can post it that way. I can also make some those YouTube shorts where it speeds up and you can watch it in a minute. But that may not be so fun for some people who want to follow along. So I can post both kinds of versions. I can post a long and a short. Let me know what format you like. I can do different formats. So I'm going to end this video here, and I'll put links to, at least the things off Amazon. Not really sure how to put links for TEMU, but I can give you, this is sold on Amazon, so give you, and if I can find a TEMU link, I don't know if they have any links for me to share to TEMU. I haven't even looked into that, but if you find one in the comments down below, that means that I found a link to give you. Otherwise, I'll give you the Amazon links, including for this, even though I didn't use it, and I'll find the one for the Uniball Vision, because that one I know is waterproof, so I'll get that one for you too, and whatever else and I'll see if I can find these online, because I bought them locally. And I use this to trace, but I did buy that on Amazon. Yeah, so don't know. I know a lot of people want to know what is being used, so I'll just put links under it, and you can go check it out. And but just make sure you hit the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, then please do that as well. And I'll be back with more videos soon. Thanks. Bye.